I started blacksmithing in 2005, and in about 2007 I made my first swords out of a coil spring for my oldest two sons, Nate and Adam. And since then, there have been maybe 26 swords come out of my shop. About half were sold, and about half were gifts. And I've got to tell you, it feels so good to give a gift that will truly last a long time, perhaps long enough to become an heirloom. And this sword will be a gift for my oldest grandchild, Holly Brewster. And I'm giving it to her to commemorate the completion of an 18-month mission to Sweden. She learned the language, she taught people about Jesus, she paid her own way, and I am just so proud of her. I may have mentioned this somewhere sometime, but these springs are from underneath railroad cars, and in particular, I think the locomotives, because there's an interior spring and an exterior spring. Those things are heavy. And so the material is 15/16 in diameter, okay? 15/16, like this. I'm 11.5 inches to where I center this upset, 2.5 inches to the end from the center of the upset. I'm gonna bump this up to maybe 1 1/8 inch, 1 1/16, just a little bit. That's so I can try to keep my upset centered. Well, it's been several years since I've done this, and neither the power hammer nor my forging sense is quite tuned up, but it will be. So here we are, some false starts, not a model of efficiency. I got plenty in here for the ricasso, plenty to work down in the tang. Extra length I'll have to cut off, and I'm down to about, strong quarter, down to 3/16 at the end. Little rough shaping, preforming to do before I actually start the handwork. Well started. A coal forge is so important in making swords. In coal, you can get a very short, hot heat. So you can forge the double-edged geometry like 4 inches at a time, 3 inches at a time. And when you forge in 4 hot inches, you're not deforming the whole length of the rough forging like a piece of spaghetti. It's hard to forge a straight center line and keep it straight. And I don't know how you would do it without coal. Knock some of the scale off, let it forms again in just a second. Lock it against the edge. Try to keep your blows more or less even. I try to keep the blade about halfway between the bottom and the top of the forge fire. A neutral flame, they say. So this is the sword I'm copying. I'm going to lighten it up. That ink mark indicates I'm going to make it a little more refined. Holly's a small girl. The blade's narrower, it's going to be a little shorter, but it's going to evoke or sort of match this, which means you've watched me forging with the 6-pound hammer the geometry or the bevels and getting the beginning of the distal taper, but now I'm getting to the ricasso. And the ricasso is a little trickier because it maintains the full thickness of the center of the sword all the way back to where the hilt dies into it. So there's a transition between the tapers on the edges sort of rolling out into the same width as the sword, the same thickness as the spine, but with sort of a swale in 4 places. I don't know if there's a better way than what I'm doing. I use the horn, I use a rounding hammer, and then I fuller in to begin to reduce the grinding that I need to do. That's next, and then it's time to start grinding. A 2x72 belt grinder is almost a must, at least it is for me. First I grind the profile or the shape and then the flats using progressively finer grit belts, starting at a 36, which is rough, and then stepping down to an 80, to a 120, to a 220, and finally to 440, which is about enough for my process. This whole routine epitomizes something called workmanship of risk. And in this case, the longer you grind, the closer you get, the greater the risk of a catastrophic mistake. So this geometry is just all made up. Like my friend Steve Harris says, my swords look like they came out of a troll horde. There's nothing historical about them, but that's all right. Put on a little water. Wrap some 400 grit around a piece of 3/16 or 1/8 by 1 or 1 1/4 or something. And start rubbing. Gonna make the guard out of that. Come on, Leatherman. Maybe. Leatherman keeps you on the road. Probably drop it in the slack tub. Mark and come back. Okay, I think that this is plenty close for grinding. There's enough material, too much actually, that I can get some shape in there. That slot is lined up pretty nicely with the center line of the quillins. Yeah, so I'm going to smooth it up, get rid of the scale, get a good look at it, see if the shapes are pleasing, and then bring it over here and drift that slot out to the final size to accommodate the tang on the sword itself. Pretty close. All right, I know what to do. So what I like to do at this point is use the sword itself for the last part of the drift. Gets a good fit up between the shoulders at the tang and the face of the hilt. Looks good. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got those shoulders pushed right in flush, and it's pinched itself. It's in snug enough contact that it won't slide off without some help. And there's what it looks like. Can you see those indentations? It's a mortise that fits the shoulders of the tang pretty dang close. All right, the last major piece to forge is the pommel. I forged the pommel out of a piece of 1 5/8" mild shaft. Here's one that I forged, I don't know, now maybe 6 years ago. But I'm not using that. I'm gonna make another one with a set of clapper dies. There's the die right there. Takes some horsepower to hit something that hard. There we go. Got enough sprue, the neck down smooth. Now we're going to flatten that and work it out to the shape we want. Okay. It's showtime. I'm going to mellow that out a little bit. Okay, I put the fire out and I'm just going to let that tube and the residual heat of the forge bring that sword up to temperature. Up there. Wow, tight on the stretch. And quench. And swish. Slicing through the oil, not paddling. We have lots of turbulence from convection, which means it's still giving up a lot of heat. I had preheated the oil to about 140 degrees, I hope, to increase viscosity. Hot. lay it into my oak press, and burn the boats, baby. And now we wait. Press, experiment. Moving the tube over to adjacent to the oil, experiment. The indications are with that light gray along the surface of the entire sword that it is hard. I'm hoping that it didn't get so far past critical temperature for long enough that the grain growth was significant. But if it doesn't break in the press, and if I don't break it when I take out the little tweaks after it's tempered, I don't need to know if the grain grew or not. All right, it's been 30 minutes. It is cool to the touch. I'm going to open it up and look at it. But first, let me show you something that at least indicates hard. Come over here. Zoom right in on this. You see that ricasso that I heated up with a torch to just below critical, that light gray color? That's what steel does, carbon steel, when it gets hard. All right, let's pop the lid on this thing and see what we've got. Well, it does not appear to be broken. It's not broken. It's hard, especially the tip. Probably clear to the middle. The edges are all hard. It would not be bad if the center line still was malleable. I mean, that's brake protection. Let me wipe that off. Oh yeah, there's a very gentle, even sweep right there that I think I can tap out once it's tempered. Yeah, aside from, it's a win. It's a win. Now I'm going to figure out a process for tempering a blade that's too long to go in my wife's oven, and we will press forward. Oh yeah. Look at that. Gonna perfectly conform. So the way I've always done these hidden tang handles on swords is drill a hole, centered, that's a little smaller than the tang, and then heat the tang up and push it on over the, push the handle on over the tang. Now this is just a placeholder. This is a practice. But Brian Brown, the guy that made that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful armorer's anvil, called him the other day to talk to him about silver wire and some other questions that he can answer. And he showed me, or described to me, what I think is a very, very slick way to create a handle, a wood core handle around a hidden tang. Let's try it. You got these two roughly L-shaped pieces, right? That mate like that. And will embrace your 1/4 inch thick tang. Look at this, man, Brian. And you can just angle it so the reveal tapers to fit the taper of the tang. Look at that. And you glue it and clamp it. Brian Brown. Okay, just in case we didn't get that. Got the tang in there. Got the glue on it. Got it up snug. Clamp down. Snug. With any luck, tomorrow morning, that's going to be ready to grind and fit and taper, and if I mess it up, easy enough to make another. Well, thanks to Brian Brown, this is a way more effective method than burning a hole. Yeah, I think that's good. You see, we have a smaller rectangular hole there, a larger rectangular hole there. It slides in left or right, right or left, and now I'm just going to grind it down and see how it feels in the hand once it actually fits into the hilt. And into the pommel. I'll know more in an hour. Well, I had big plans for twisting silver wire and wrapping the handle like I have before, but they failed. They failed for a lot of reasons. But my friend Steve Harris helped me out, because after I had my oak core threaded, he was able to wrap and glue black kangaroo hide onto the core into perfect contact with the threads and glue it in place in a bulletproof contact cement way so that I could then wrap stainless steel wire into the grooves. This, I have to say, is my new favorite handle technique. Man, I love blacksmithing and I love making swords, but I'll tell you, this was a pressure-packed project for me. I started Holly's sword months ahead of time because I know how busy my schedule is. But when she came home, I had barely made it. I mean, barely. It was close. Because sometimes, maybe all the time, making things seems to conflict with available time, doesn't it? And making things requires the ability to adjust and maybe plot a new course or settle for something different or pursue an improvement and just keep moving. It's part of the cost of craftsmanship, I think. But before I sign off, I've got to say just how grateful I am to the folks who helped me. Steve Harris with this beautiful scabbard and with the handle, and Brian Brown with good ideas, and Aaron Brewster for another set of hands when I needed them. But mostly, now I'm grateful to Holly for being such a light in my family, for her example to my other grandkids who are just coming along behind. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.